I'm your host, Antonio. What you do for yourself depends on what you think of yourself. And what you think of yourself depends on what you know of yourself. And what you know of yourself depends on what you've been told of yourself. Welcome to the show. Got a great show for you. Hey, Cleveland. Hey, we got a little snow, but hey, it is January. It is the so-called New Year. I don't know if y'all gonna. Hey, just call me Mr. Anti-Establishment from this particular point. Because it's not technically the New Year. It's this. We in this America and we going by their program. But so happy New Year to you. Hope you guys had a good Kwanzaa. We definitely need to stay on top of that as far as Black folks is concerned, and showing some type of cultural unity and putting us on the right mindset of understanding that we need to work together. We got to have faith. We got to have purpose. We got to have cooperative economics and all those particular things that the principles of Kwanzaa gives us. We need that as Black folks. Got a great show for you today. We got a couple young folks that's come on and talk about some of the things they've been doing in the city, the state, the country, around the world, and they're making connections. But before that, we're going to go to our remote studio. Brother Vince, what's going on?
As you said, we have a program that will involve young folk today, and it is a very vital subject to our community. So I'm glad to be able to bring these folks to you. Also, just want to say to those who celebrate, Happy New Year. But I'm here to tell you the year don't start until the spring. They switched up the calendars on us and they got everything screwed up. So to those who say Happy New Year to you. But as far as I'm concerned, March 21st, 22nd. That's where it really starts.
Hey, Vince, I do want to make one announcement. I forgot all about it. Just to let folks know, we're coming up on Black History Month, and Antonio is going to be bringing you a lecture. It's going to be the first weekend, February 1st, and it should be at the Wings Academy. And we have our good brother Wayne Chandler that's going to be presenting that day, and then the topic is going to be the African presence in early India and China, and also your good brother Antonio is going to be presenting too. I'm open up for him and just speak a little bit about who and what we are and what have we become as Black folks. What, in my opinion, what we metamorphosize into as beings. It's being here, being in this westernized environment. How has it affected Black folks from times past? Where we at mentally and physically and consciously, as people. So that's what I'm going to be bringing a presentation in reference to that. And our good brother Wayne is going to be doing the African presence in early India and China. It's going to blow your mind on that. So especially with the onset of them trying to take history out of the schools, you need to bone up. You parents need to bone up on history so you can keep the legacy going, because folks are trying to get rid of all that. So get tickets, give me a holler. Like I said, it's the first weekend in February, Black History Month. All right, my good brother, Vince.
Okay, well, I'll take this opportunity to let you know that I'll be doing a performance at the East Cleveland Public Library during Black History Month. Actually, it will be on the 15th at 3 p.m. So we'll be getting the word out about that particular event in the very near future, but I'm just looking forward to doing a performance. It's going to be called Looking Back, Moving Forward. So I'm going to take a historical look at Black folks and also talk about what's going on today. As Brother Antonio said, we do have two very important guests with us today. So let me take just a few moments to introduce these folks to you. First of all, we have Brother WallStreet West. We share the same last name, but I'm not sure that we're related. I think we might be from different parts of the country, or maybe even different parts of the United States, or different parts of Africa. But WallStreet West, Wesley Robinson, he is, among other things, a poet. He's an entrepreneur, and he's doing some great things in the world of reaching out to young people. We also have Miss Augustine Turner. She goes by St. Augustine. She's a passionate community leader, advocate, and waymaker for at-risk youth and individuals re-entering society after incarceration. So Looking forward to the conversation with them today. They are joining us remotely, of course. They look a little cozy there in that car. I know it's kind of cold out there, but we want to warm things up with the conversation that we're going to have today. And before I say anything else, I just want to encourage those of you who are viewing us on YouTube to like and subscribe to our channels. Both Antonio and I have YouTube channels, so all you got to do is go to YouTube, put our name in, put my name in. You can put The Journey with Antonio in the search window. Go to our YouTube pages, like, comment, and subscribe. It will help us out tremendously. With all that said, welcome to 360 Info Network, Wall Street West, and St. Augustine, aka say what now?
We in the building because we into building.
All right. So you have a very interesting saying, Wes, and that is it has something to do with not agreeing with everyone.
Oh, that's the you said not agreeing with everybody.
Yeah, you think different. You talk about thinking differently.
Oh yeah, that's actually the name of my company. It's called Great Minds Think Different.
Okay, resonates. It resonates absolutely. Let's first talk about how poetry has been instrumental, and you have quite a story. You served some time, and you came out, and you basically turned your life around, and now you are a beacon for those who are locked up and perhaps looking for change in their life. Talk about your past and how poetry relates to that, and how it became a vehicle for you not only liberating yourself but liberating others.
For sure. I'm trying to put it in a nutshell because I know I can get long-winded, and I definitely want to leave some room for y'all to, hear the brilliance of St. Augustine. But at 21 years old, I went to prison for robbery. I was a stick-up kid. I wrote poetry my whole time I was locked up. Every prison I went to, I taught other men poetry to teach them how to learn their emotions to keep from being violent. I went forward and ended up being the first poets laureate of the prison system in Ohio. Once I was released from prison, I couldn't understand why the Most High kept putting in my heart to really take poetry more serious. I worked in the music industry for a while. When I fell out of love with that, I really started taking poetry serious. But I stopped doing poetry from an entertainment standpoint. Like I didn't do poetry from an entertainment standpoint. I started doing it for emotional care. I realized that my years of perfecting and becoming an expert at poetry, I actually became a master communicator. So I took those skills of poetry and I turned them into a profession of me being a master communicator and bridging gaps of communication between people of all ages and races.
So talk about the education that you received while you were away. Sometimes people look at that situation as the university. That's kind of a euphemism for being locked up, but something happened to you while you were there that told you that you needed to do something differently. So can you talk about what that wake up was for you?
I had wrote my mother a poem one time. And at the beginning of that poem, I questioned, was my mother ashamed of me because I was in prison? And when I sent my mother the poem, she wrote me back and she let me know. She was like, you look around, everybody in there is somebody's son. So she was like, I'm not ashamed of you. She's like, my only problem with you is, but I feel like you put all your energy into the wrong thing. She's like, I feel like you're a prolific man. I feel like you genius. I feel like you supreme. But I feel like you put all that energy into the wrong things. And even though it didn't change my life that very moment, months later, what she said to me really resonated. And I learned how to redirect my energy. I learned the power of like what I put my energy into, whether it's a conversation, and no matter what it is, I learned the power of how to really direct my energy. And I started directing my energy towards just really being a servant of the Most High. And it's just really been working out for me.
Mm-hmm. So in essence, it was your mother's voice that really resonated with you, and then you have a connection with what we all consider that supreme being. Want to bring Augustine into the conversation. Could you give us a little bit about your background, what your experience has been, and what you are doing today?
Oh yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, thank you for having me on. That was a great introduction. So, like you mentioned in the bio, I do a lot of work with juveniles, reentry. I'm actually an aged out foster kid. I grew up in the Cleveland, Ohio area. And in my era, there were a lot of lack of resources. There were limited mentors. And really, there weren't a lot of places where you can go where people will really hold your hand and help you get through the adversities of life. So when I served my time, in jail, it really gave me time to think about, um, if we wanted a change in our society, what we needed to do different. And so what I did was I actually started going door to door. So I started my career going door to door, telling people what I wanted to do for a living. And 10 years later, I ended up with a company called Mentors for Minorities, and basically that's what we do. So when I say I'm a waymaker, it's because I have found the formula to self-sufficiency. I have learned ways like going door to door, interacting with people, using great communication skills, utilizing mentorship, utilizing resources to really establish life, for different people who have dealt with different circumstances, like being incarcerated, being homeless, being a young mother at an early age, dropping out of college. I've experienced all of these things, and yet I still somehow became successful, not because of that adversity, but because of the mind frame. And one thing that really helped me was my faith, and really just holding on to the promises, that our Father has for us, because a lot of times people forget.
Hmm. So there seems to be a faith-based component to your philosophy. Wes, I visited a website last night, and I saw a few things that you had posted, some things that are on YouTube. And one of the things that seemed to be consistent in terms of the things that were being expressed to you from youth is this whole idea of not being heard. We often look at the consequences of the actions of young people, but we don't look at the causes. Can you talk to us about why our youth are getting locked up the way that they are? Perhaps we could explore some of those causational factors, and maybe even talk about some things that could prevent them from having to go through those experiences.
For sure. I feel like it's a big misconception about kids that's being locked up. There's this stigma that if a kid finds themselves inside of a juvenile detention center, that there's automatically something wrong with them. So then they start getting treated like something is wrong with them. So they going crazy, like, hey, ain't nothing wrong with me. So everybody like, look, you acting bad. They like, man, ain't nothing wrong with me, because it's different classes of people inside the detention centers, the prisons, and everybody feel like when you find yourself in that type of space, it's only one type of person in that space. Man, you got kids in the juvenile detention center where they parents is just not good parents. You know what I mean? Like, and when I was a kid, my mother would just drop me off at the detention center because she didn't feel like being a mom. So imagine having to deal with the trauma of your parents not wanting you. Now you being treated like an animal. You getting wrestled down, you getting beat up by adults, and now you being traumatized all because you was born into a bad situation. And most kids, I find the power of letting them be heard because they're gonna tell you what's wrong. Everybody automatically put them in a space like they are so lost, but for real, they lack guidance. It's us. It's our shortcomings, the things that we do. We do things in front of them and expect for them to know differently outside of what they see. We grow up in houses that's crack houses, and parents is not taking their life serious, and we got to figure out how to navigate this life on our own as a child. And a child can't. They're gonna make all the wrong decisions because they new to this earth. So that's why I find like it's so powerful to talk to them, because when you talk to them and hear them out, you get a chance to hear them say like, hey, like I need help. I'm in a bad situation for real. And I hear them out and I act on it, because I can relate, because I came from that same type of upbringing for real.
Can you talk about perhaps what kinds of things cause them to get incarcerated? I know in your situation, it was aggravated robbery. So, you rob other people because you don't have the resources to take care of yourself. And it's kind of like a last resort. But I wouldn't surmise that everybody that's locked up is in there for that. So what kinds of things are they being pushed into the system for?
It's a lot of different reasons. Like, say for instance, when I was a child, um, my mother might just move a man in the house. So now me and that man is having a problem because I can see this man really not good for my mother. So now my mother is choosing a man over me. And she put me out into the streets and I'm 15 years old. So at 15 years old, I'm developing habits out of survival. I'm committing crimes out of survival because I'm hungry. Because it's wintertime outside and I got a little jacket on. So I realized I got to take it. You know what I mean? So now I'm developing character traits out of my survival, and it's being deemed as I'm being bad, but I really could use some help. And now that I'm gone and my mother put me out, my mother gonna put a missing person report on me. So if I'm out in the streets and somebody pick me up, but I'm going to jail. All because my mother put this missing person report on me out of being spiteful. So now I'm sitting in the detention center for weeks on end. And all somebody gotta do is just come pick me up and I could leave. I could leave at any given time and they just leaving me in there. So it's a deeper conversation to be had. And that's the biggest thing when you think about recidivism and people going back to jail. The biggest thing that's really hurting people is the stigma on people who find themselves inside of detention centers, inside of prisons. The whole world has been programmed to look at these people as one type of way. And it's a deeper conversation to be had if anybody willing to listen.
Right.
Yeah.
And to chime in on what he said, a lot of these youth, they need help. I know growing up as a foster kid, because I displayed behavior issues, they immediately threw me in the IEP class, but I was the smartest kid in the classroom. I graduated 3 years before I was supposed to graduate, but they had me doped up on medicine because I had behavior issues. As I got older and I took myself off that medicine, I realized that a lot of my issues came from me not having a safe place to go to talk to somebody. Because if I go talk to a therapist, they're going to say, oh, you got ADHD, we're going to give you this medicine. Oh, well, you're bipolar, we're going to give you this medicine. Well, what if I just, have this personality where, I can't sit down. I'm always excited. So these children are being put in spaces where they don't have anyone to go talk to. By law, if something bad is going on in a home and they're at school, the teacher has to call Children and Family Services. But as we all know, Children and Family Services has been on the news multiple times for mistreating youth, for not having placement for them, for not having food. So a lot of these young adults, they're being taken out of their situations, putting in worse, or they simply don't want to communicate because they understand that they're not going to have anywhere to go. So when you're dealing with medication or, okay, let's take this kid to go see a therapist, some kids might be scared to talk, or they may not feel like they have that safe space. And I believe that we should start by creating safe places for children to come in and receive food, water, hygiene, somebody to talk to. There's no places like these outside of the rec centers and the church.
Yes. So it seems as though there's systemic support for creating dysfunction in our youth.
Right.
When you talk about giving somebody medication to, I guess, control their behavior, for lack of a better way of putting it, you're not really dealing with the cause. And it's something that we talk about on this program all the time. When we talk about medical treatment, we talk about treating symptoms rather than coming up with a cure. You are interacting with young people and obviously having an impact on their lives. Can you talk about your approach to perhaps mentoring young people or giving them what they need to create the change that you've seen in your own selves?
For sure. My motto is, you can't ask somebody to change their life without giving them something that's life changing. So with these kids, man, we very hands-on, like extremely hands-on. Like we become a part of your life. We believe that it still takes a community. we pulling up on these kids. We spending quality time with them. We feed them. We taking care. We being a aid to their parents. We being an extension of their parents. We're giving them a chance to, be an individual. But I think the most important thing that I do, Augustine has her philosophies as well. But what I do the most, I never look for a kid to be older than what they really are. If a child is 11, 12, 13, man, I understand where my mom was at in them ages. So I'm not looking for you to be as intelligent as me because I'm 39 years old. When I was 11 years old, man, I was clueless. Man, I'm new to this world still, kind of, sort of. So one of the things that really give these kids a space to be safe around us is we don't hold you to an unrealistic expectation. Like, if you being silly and you ain't taking things serious, man, I understand that teenagers don't take things serious. Know what I mean? They gonna be silly, they gonna be goofy, and they can't comprehend everything. And I speak to them based on their vocabulary. I don't try to make them raise the bar to my vocabulary, because you might be saying certain things to a kid, and to you, this is very simple. But to them, man, they ain't got a clue on what you talking about. You would be like, man, you need to start being more responsible. You need to start taking care of your business, cleaning your room. But you done lost them because, man, they generally don't know what being responsible is. And learning how to be responsible ain't something you sit down and learn in a conversation. That's something you got to develop, And a lot of times it be vocabulary. We talking to these kids with a vocabulary that's too advanced for them. I done read books by, Michael Dyson, and he's speaking too far advanced for me to even comprehend the knowledge that he given. So with kids, I dumb down my conversation. I use words on a level.
That's interesting. When you talk about Michael Eric Dyson, he's absolutely a wordsmith, and he uses a lot of $1 million words, so to speak. But it's really a matter of relatability. Augustine, I want to ask you, what are the things that are happening in the lives of young girls? Wes talked about the plight that boys might have, but what kinds of things that are happening in the lives of young girls that cause them to get caught up in the system?
Oh, wow. Well, it's amazing that you asked me that, because I work with a group of young girls down in Columbus. We have a group called Selfie, and it stands for Sisters, Entrepreneurs, Life Changers, Friends, Individuals, Eternally. And basically, I try to meet them on their level, by letting them know that they have a safe place. These girls are being raised up by our music. They're being influenced by their mothers. They're being influenced by being raised up in homes that lack fathers. There's a big gap in that. These little girls, they're growing up very aggressive, very masculine. They don't have any kind of sexual education. When I look at, how they're dressed, a lot of them, the lack of respect is not there. And it really starts with their parents. Sometimes I ask myself, like, why would that mother buy that for her daughter? Just not right to wear that kind of stuff. And, when I sit down and I talk to them, they're dealing with a lot of peer pressure. They're dealing with lack of understanding their emotions, lack of really understanding who they are as young women. Like, last week we did a session with them where we're teaching them about positive affirmations and, positive self-talk. And out of our whole group of 13 girls, only one young lady knew what a positive affirmation is. And being a young lady in today's society, I found that as a big red flag, because, I live in Columbus, and the sex trafficking rate is extremely high. And a lot of these men or women, they prey, on young girls, and that's how they reel them in. They tell them they're beautiful. They tell them they're smart. They tell them they're intelligent. And they get them to compromise their soul. And a lot of times it's because they're not receiving this kind of love in the household. You know, so one thing that I do is I provide them a space where they can be loved, they can be nurtured. You know, in today's society, you have parents working 2-3 jobs just to make a way. But because I'm a full-time entrepreneur, I go to the schools. I'll sit in a class with the kids, you know, and this is old school parenting. My parents used to come into the school. Oh, you acting up? All right, we're going to come sit in there with you. You know, we're gonna let you know that this is not anything to play with. You have a team, you have a support behind you, and that's what these kids are lacking, as well as the awareness of who they are as people. Because society keeps pushing these rappers, these content creators, these YouTubers, these TikTokers, and there's nothing wrong with these people. I definitely don't want to paint that picture, but the problem is, these kids find more value in those people than everyday people like you and I, who are really out here making a genuine impact. And we are the people that I want to continuously put in front of these youths to show them what real success looks like, to kill that perception.
Yeah, it seems as though what you are providing is nurturing relationships because the nurturing is absent from their lives. You talk about a parent that's working 2 jobs, and you know, economics dictate that you do that. You know, if you can't make enough money on one job to cover everything, then you got to get 2 jobs, but the child loses out because the time that you're spending away from them is time that you could be nurturing them. So
just to chime in what you said, it could be something so little as these kids are not even receiving home cooked meals. They're not even getting nurturing in their body. You know, and Wes, he always say, if you feed a stray dog, they'll stay with you forever. So it's the small things that you can do for these children that really make a big difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the main thing, it seems to me, is that you're showing young people that you care about them. And it seems as though they're living in a world in which they don't think anybody cares about them. They don't think anybody wants to listen to what their thoughts or their ideas are. And, you know, we talk about this all the time on this radio program. It seems as though everything in life is against you. And if you come up with this idea that the world is against you and you have this certain sense of hopelessness, there's helplessness that goes along with that, and then you become a victim of the streets. I want to bring Brother Antonio into the conversation. Brother, you've been listening to what they've been sharing with us, and of course, you have a background in law enforcement, so sometimes you are that person who was telling a young person that they got to be away for a minute because of their actions. Talk to us about what you see as the problem, and perhaps we can talk about some of the solutions.
Well, you know, with me, with anything or any guest we have, I always try to look at, you know, where we went astray, and where we went wrong, and what is the root cause and problem. You see, we talk about all the time. I mean, we've got a plethora of issues as far as the Black community is concerned, on where we're coming up short, and definitely coming up short as far as our kids and stuff is concerned. It's just you know, and that's our jewels. You know, your kids, your prodigy, your kids is responsible for, you know, for building on top of what foundational society that our forebears went, you know, built upon. And you can see that it's just a testament of where we are as people.
Right.
You know, we have failed. You know, we have failed as a society, as a cultural society in general. You know, our kids is a reflection of us and what we have done. And I think the system along, you know, going way back to the 50s and 60s, we deviated from our responsibilities as a community and people and got into things. You know, they swapped out those particular things with, you know, nice cars, working at General Motors or things of that nature, and you forgot who you are. And that's what's been going on for the longest. We stopped telling our story. You know, we here we are at this particular juncture, and we wondering why, the young folks don't want to vote. Okay, we be like, oh, what's wrong with you? People died, for you to vote. Do they know that?
Right.
How well we've been conveying this message and what's important, and letting them know about our history and the importance of voting and how people died and things. They haven't experienced that. This is just an example. They haven't experienced that. So why would they be as serious about voting as me and you, just seeing what happened with Martin Luther King? I was born when they was put at the Capitol, when they was pushing them off the stairs, where they couldn't vote. I was alive during that time. And sometimes it trips me out, like I said, that was in my lifetime when black folks just now start really, starting to vote. You know what I mean? So I'm saying that to say, because of the society from which we live in, we got a plethora of issues, but we have dropped the ball again when it comes to our youth. We letting the other folks educate them, right at this particular point in Cleveland still. I think we don't have a school board that we vote for, that maybe speaks on and talks, as far as our curriculum is concerned, or what our kids really need. You got, you had in the past, I don't know who it is right now, but a CEO, a business person in the board, and and not knowing that everybody don't go to college. You could bring the trades back on it, those leadership classes and things like that. We have put our kids in the hands of somebody else who's not doing a good job in doing it. So again, Brother West and Sister Augustine, I don't know, in your curriculum, do you talk to them about this intergenerational piece that is necessary of bridging those? Because I know, Vince, you have seen it as well, that we have lost that relationship between the older folks and the young folks, and the older people and young folks. We lost that relationship. You remember back in the day, a winehead on the corner used to sit us down, and we used to listen and talk to him, giving us some good info on things. You know what I mean? That was back in the day. Hey, man, this is how you do this. You don't do. Hey, listen to your mama and things. We lost that relationship. So, along with what you guys is doing, we have to get for number one, folks in our generation. We got to understand that we failed them. Right. We have failed them. You know what I mean? And they're in the same position or worse position than what we were on. Now, as far as begging for a job, education, and things of that nature, what have we set up for them as adults for our next generation? They got to start at zero, just like we did in most cases, and go out there and beg for a job, go work for somebody, and things of that nature. We're not doing a good job as a race of people, personally, because we still dependent all the way for everything on somebody else. And you can never get independency and real freedom if you constantly depending on somebody else. So again, who better to tell our story as far as history, as far as getting into their head, making them understand who they are and what they are and why they're important, and developing them those parenting skills, those communal skills, that village to take a child type of thing that you're talking about. That's all a part of our culture. Right. That's all a part of who we are and were at one point in time. That's why, it's going to be a joke now, and I got some t-shirts for it too, y'all. That's why I call myself anti-establishment. And I got t-shirts. I'm rocking on that. And what I mean by that, just give me, I'm gonna get off my soapbox in a minute. Just give me one more minute, okay? That's why I say anti-establishment, because most of the things that we've been taught here in this country are wrong, and it's not in the best interest of black folks. I don't see too many things out here that I want to follow somebody else's, this system's lead to and taking myself and my family down that particular path. I don't see too much of anything. I don't as far as their ideas on a society, a culture, education, how their diet, they don't screwed up everything. They haven't been good stewards of running this. They're running this. But why, what is it that you want to follow? The economics, the race relations, the environment, the food, how they treat the body, far as medical and hospital stuff is concerned, any of those things, you know. So they haven't showed me anything that I want to put so much trust and energy into. So it all comes back again to us again, establishing who we are and embracing our kids again and showing them that love. You know, we in a society now, we got to have 2 jobs. Now they out the household. What's happening? If we was in a village type of a situation, somebody else would be picking up that slack and making sure that kid getting what they need, you know, and showing that love and that care. When uncles and all these people used to have a big role in developing that child, because that's our future, and we're not doing a good job.
And that was the main reason why we wanted to come on the show today, because, you know, throughout our day, you know, we constantly hear people, you know, expressing that, you know, but what we doing is a chance for people to really get behind that. Like everything that you are saying that we should get back to a society, man, St. Augustine and I, man, we really doing that. And we spend our days just encouraging, man, other people to get behind us, because, man, we really representing that. We're not trying to rally everybody else to do it as well. We understand that everyone doesn't have the luxury to show up in the community the way we do. But what we doing is a perfect opportunity for other people to get behind us, you know, to assure that it's happening, because what we doing is really being effective. It's really working. We can see the lives of these kids changing on a day-to-day basis, you know, and if anybody really wants to see that change, like we creating that change, and we just encourage the community to get behind us, because we doing right with that energy.
Brother West, just a quick question, Vince. I just want to just add to what he's saying there. I don't know how much, far as history, you incorporate or have the opportunity to talk to them about, but I'm a firm believer, if you feel better about yourself, you do better about yourself. You know, I'm a firm believer in that. So but I don't know how far you go in putting in history of knowing who they are and knowing the type of lineage that they come from, even from a emotional, physical, a sense to a spiritual sense. You know, they got a great lineage that they need to know about. And I don't think our school systems and sometimes our parents is not doing a good job on that. But I think with that being said, that that can help move the needle forward on them coming back to their own. Because we all, once you feel better about yourself, you really do better.
I want to take this opportunity real quickly just to let the folks who are listening to us on AM 1490 WERE that you're listening to 360 Info Network with Antonio Vince Robinson. Our guests today are Wall Street Wes Robinson and Augustine Turner, also known as St. Augustine. They are both very highly engaged advocates for youth, and they've been working with folks at the Juvenile Detention Center. I just wanted to revisit a few things that Brother Antonio brought up, because I also know, after having a conversation with Pamela Hubbard just a couple of days ago, that Wes, that you have been working with Pamela and you have embraced something called rites of passage. Brother Antonio talked about the divide between generations. And of course, we're in that 60 plus situation. I don't know how old you are, Antonio, but I think you close. Brother Wes, you mentioned being 39 years old. So you're kind of in the middle. And then you have young folks who are in their 20s and earlier. But yes, it is vital that we have a certain level of communication with each other. And this generational connection is one of the things that can provide benefits to us as a community. But we also are looking at the reality of the fact that the schools are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And as a result of the schools not doing what they are supposed to do, then there are gaps that are left that someone has to pick up on. And it appears to me, Wes and Augustine, that you all are the ones who are filling in those gaps. Can you talk to us about specifically what your programs are? And can you also ask for what you need, because people need to know what you need in order to support you.
Sure, I believe it.
Okay. So one of the biggest things that we've been doing is to partner with schools. I know myself specifically in Columbus and West and Cleveland. And a lot of times the school boards are telling us that they just don't have the money, which for us, we don't understand. But because we love what we do so much, we found a way to still proceed without getting the funds from the schools. So that's where our social entrepreneurship comes in. We train our youth on entrepreneurship. So they do fundraising. They get online, they use their social medias, and they say, hey, we're a part of this great organization called Great Minds Think Different, Mentors for Minorities. And we're learning how to cook. We're learning how to clean. We're learning how to budget money. We're learning how to deal with our emotional intelligence, and we need your help. So if we could ask for anything at this time, it would definitely be funding to support programs that we are currently already doing. If you guys have any kind of connections where you guys can put us in front of people who are sitting on the boards to let them know, listen, we'll find the funding. We're at the point where we don't even care if they don't have the money anymore, because it's such a dire need that we use platforms like this to come on here and tell you guys what we're doing to get the community support. And we've been doing it for years, and my last ask is, if you're watching this and this moves you in any kind of way, we can only do so much by ourselves, but together we can do a lot. Everyone can't do everything, but everybody can do something. So if you feel in your heart that there's a way that you can impact these youths, become a mentor. Sign up to mentor. Sign up to find a way that you can give back, even if it's something so small as educating our youth on the importance.
Okay, looks like we lost their signal, and I'm sure at some point it will return. Here we go. And just so that you know, again, those of you who are listening to us on the radio, we have WallStreet Wes with us today. He is a poet, and he's also someone who is in communication with young folks. He and Augustine have been visiting the Juvenile Detention Center and interacting with the youth there and doing what they can to give them guidance and support. It's really kind of sad that we have a generation, or actually a couple of generations, who have been lost just based on certain things that have happened in society. We can look back to the 80s as the era of crack. And one thing that did was it just basically broke up families. But before then, we had the whole welfare system that really kind of ramped things up when we got into the 60s and the 70s. And I think part of the thing that has happened, Brother Hamtonio, is that we have seen the erosion of the Black family. There is a viral video out there that features George Fraser. And George is just talking about who's married and who's making money. And he mentioned a specific community that has a marriage rate that's like 70 something percent. Yeah, you saw that. And then when it came down to Black folks, we're down in the 30 something percent range. 34%, so, and the family is the foundation of any successful ethnicity or group of people.
Right.
So what's happening is you have young men who are not fulfilling their responsibility to young women by getting married, having children, and being successful with them. But the real critical issue, and I'm saying this to both Wes and Augustine, the real critical issue is what we do for ourselves, because we have seen that the system is against us. It's that system that would give someone like Augustine ADHD medication when basically she just needed another way to learn. Obviously, she was above the peers in her classroom, which is why she could graduate or come through that system 3 years early. But because the system is what it is, they will give you a drug instead of dealing with you the way that you need to be dealt with individually. What is IEP? Isn't that some type of individual education plan? And if it is an individual education plan, then it failed because it didn't really consider the uniqueness of you as a student and address what your abilities were and then position you to succeed in society. Not everyone is a college-bound person. Not everybody wants to study for 4 years and then go through all that just to get a piece of paper and no job. Some young people realize that, hey, you know, I'm not cut out for the corporate scene. I would rather be a plumber or an electrician or something like that, you know. And why should they be penalized because they choose a different path? Wes, your name is Wall Street West because you invest in people. That's what you shared with me earlier today. For some reason, I was thinking Wall Street West was this financial literacy giant, but I'm just bringing it home to the idea of investment. And I think that it's really important for us.
You're on mute, Wes.
As people,
you're mute.
Your microphone is muted. It's really important for us to invest in ourselves as people, because sometimes we serve the interests of others and we don't necessarily serve the interests of ourselves. And in serving the interests of ourselves have a beneficial impact on the lives of those of us who are in our immediate environment. Do we have your audio, Brother West? Okay, he's still trying to figure it out. And it looks like we have about 11 minutes left in our broadcast. Brother Antonio, I just wanted to ask you while they get it figured out, what do you see as some of the ways that we can get to our young people?
Well, again, let me first say that, you know, it's almost like the cowardly lion. What do they got that we ain't got? Those ones who had that higher percentage of marriage and things like that. What is the glue? You know, what is the glue that is keeping those folks together? It's their culture. You know, that's what has diminished. With, you know, back in the day, you know, and we know even with bad situations, before they start taking the man out of the house, we stuck together. You know, for a long time. You know, our mothers and stuff like that, they stuck together. And so we're so inundated with this culture in the society. You know, it's almost like do as I say and not as I do. But you know, they're doing their thing, but because of the culture that we're trying to follow, it's not in the best interest of Black folks. It's not in the best interest of Black folks at all. So we're something that Dr. Amos Wilson said, this a reactionary culture, and this is what we are taking upon at this point. This reactionary culture is a hodgepodge culture that we have now based on how we've been treated in this society, and it's not working in our best interest. So that's you know, that's one of the bigger pictures of that. And what was your question about youth? You say, Vince?
How we can reach the youth?
Again, to me, man, I from what I've seen, I've worked in the schools. You know, the foundational basis definitely have to be at home. There's no doubt about it, because your parents play a critical role in that foundation. If that is broken, it becomes more difficult, for sure. You know, the old African proverb, you say the ruin of a nation begins in the homes of its people. So we definitely have to do that, and we have to educate our adults on what their purpose is. That's why our culture is so important. It teaches you what's the role of a man, woman, and child, and how you work together, you know, and that extension of that family goes to your neighbor and to your neighbor and to your neighbor, and that becomes a community, and everybody working together. You know, those are some of the things that our people have left for us. I'm saying I'm right back to Africa again, y'all. Our cultural foundation, our ancestors have talked to you and showed you and gave you good good wisdom on how to live with one another, your purpose and things of that nature. So that's the foundation, man. And you have to instill those type of motivational, aspirational stories, proverbs, and things like that to our kids. To our kids. And you have to be the example and show them some things on how, what the role of a woman and the role of a man for them to follow. You have to got to be an example of that. And I know it becomes difficult for us to do it in this society because we're following the wrong lead in our society. It's not working for you. Go ahead.
I'm leaving the comment up on the screen for those who are watching and those who are listening to us on the radio. Nia Gomez says young women aren't fulfilling their responsibilities to the Black community either. It's not just young men. Young men are to find wives who will marry and stay. They're wasting childbearing years chasing money. I'm sure that is a very apropos comment that's being made, and I think it just comes back to the whole idea of rites of passage. When you talk about the responsibilities of a young man and the responsibilities of young woman, and the whole idea of knowing what their purpose in life is, we have to have those types of things set up so that young people can succeed as opposed to fail.
Hey, Vince, before you move to the next thing, Vince, real quick, because for the people that's on the air, Brother West and Sister Augustine, some people was asking about how can they help on donation. Is there a Cash App or something to that nature before we get off of live air?
Yes, man, it definitely is. I don't know. We should put it in the comments, or
I can put it in the description for your video. Yeah,
I'll give you my Apple Pay and Zelle, and I'll give you St. Augustine's Cash App.
Okay.
My Apple Pay and Zelle is 2-1, and you also got to know that, man, we one and the same. Like, we two different social entrepreneurs who combined our companies. So it's just like, no matter wherever you send it at, man, we fighting for the same cause. We both go hand in hand. So my Apple Pay and Zelle is my phone number. That's 216-290-9637. And St. Augustine's Cash App is
Mentors, the number 4, minorities.
Okay, Mentors for Minorities, and that's, you said Cash App?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
The donations are so important because, we got to figure out every single day ways to sustain what we do. When we try to get like large amounts of funding, what usually happens is they put a 100-page application in front of us, which discombobulates us because we too busy doing the work to sit down in front of a 100-page application. So we're never really getting the funding that we need, but we don't sit around and just complain about it. Like, we get out, we ask the community, like, please support us. Like, we don't have no pride. You can see all over the internet all of the things that we're using with the money, and we're not talking to these kids, man. We doing. And just like Mr. Antonio said earlier, man, I'm just, as a man and as a woman, man, we just leading by example. Man, we not telling these kids nothing. I'm not running a program. I'm not doing none of those things, man. I'm doing what everybody is looking for somebody doing in the community. When you say, like, we need to rise as a community, we need to come together. Like, man, we really doing that in real time right here, right now. And for anybody who really looking, you ain't gotta move off your couch. Man, if you help us finance these kids, man, you changing the world right there with us, man. Like, we really, like, the best thing you could do is put some money in these kids' pocket. And once you put some money in their pocket, then they're gonna be open to hear what you got to say after that. So I don't do too much talking, man. I just show up. I show them what real love look like. I show them what a healthy man-woman dynamics looks like. And we just doing on this earth what we are led to do, and we really putting in the work. We really in the trenches. We really in the community. And you can really, our reputation speaks for itself because we really are offering something different. We have juvenile reentry services. Nah, man, like, that's what we offer in juvenile. Like, we are, from the time they get out right in prison, we are there for them. When they come home from prison, man, we totally encompass them in our lives. We can't save everybody because some kids are, like, so far gone that I can't help them. But for the ones that we can save, man, just know that St. Augustine and myself, man, we really on the front line every single day, not just with the kids in the community, but our own. You know, it start with us. You know, we spend a lot of energy making sure that our hearts and our minds are pure at all times and righteous at all times. And when we come out into the world, man, we just sharing our righteousness. We just sharing our love because that's what we practice in our everyday life. And we could really use the help of the community. You know, I'm not too prideful or I don't have any ego to say, man, this is very expensive that what we doing. And we don't have any type of major backing whatsoever, but we still find a way to get it done because that same energy that I used to rob stores with, the same energy I used when I was one of those kids, but I use that same energy to show up for my community. You know, I use that same energy to be the change that people are looking to see. And we could really use the help of the community because it's a heavy lift and we just everyday people. We don't have any major backing, you know.
I just wanted to add in too, because we're so hands-on with the kids. A lot of times we're using the financial resources to do things like get their hair done, buy them hygiene stuff, get them clothes, you know, really build up their self-esteem. So if there's any entrepreneurs, any mothers, dads, aunts, uncles, you know, that have hair salons, restaurants, it don't matter what it is. If you have a resource that we can use, a dance studio, a boxing gym, somewhere where these kids can really come and have a safe place to evolve. This is how we're building them up. So if this sounds like you, if you are a person, you know, that have a establishment that we can utilize to provide greater resources to these youth, please reach out to us. You know, visit our websites. Mentors for Minorities has a mentoring registration link online where if you are interested, you don't have to have a college degree. You don't have to be an entrepreneur. We just need you to understand that we are serving these children. It is not about us. Then please go online and register to become a mentor and help us with this heavy lift because we cannot do this by ourselves.
Okay, we got about 40 seconds before we conclude the radio broadcast, but just based on the energy that you just gave us, I think we need to have you on for a few more moments. So if you would, and I do have some advice to share with you in terms of ways to get that money. So in the closing seconds, I just want to thank our engineer, Tone Harley. You know, Tone, brother, I appreciate you so much. He reached out to me because he didn't have the link.
I'm not sure. Vince froze up, Mr. Antonio.
Yeah. So anyway, as always, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Make the day your best day. Peace.
Peace.
All right. We are exclusively on YouTube and Facebook right now. If you haven't done so already, make sure to hit that subscribe button on our webpage. We are going to share the Cash App and the Apple Pay numbers so that you can reach out with donations. But also just want to have you let us know again what your needs are so that we can be very specific. Now, Brother Wes and St. Augustine, some folks know that I'm kind of active in the world of art advocacy. And as a result of serving on different boards, I've gotten a sense of what it
takes. We got like 2 minutes left. You want to go ahead and, you know, start bringing
home,
Sam Antonio?
We don't.
I said, I think we got like 2 minutes left. You want to bring this baby home?
Oh no, we're not limited to 2 minutes. We can take as much time as we need to. But what I wanted to do was just give you a certain sense of ways that you might be able to obtain funding. One of the real critical issues is your paperwork. You talked about having that 100-page application, and it's one of those things that they do to weed certain organizations out. So it would be helpful for you to have someone that can navigate that process and make sure that your paperwork is what it needs to be so that you don't get discouraged because someone gave you a 100-page application. That's one of the ways that they take us out of the running for certain things, and it gets so frustrated. And I had a conversation with Pam Hubbard a few days ago, and she talked about the situation that she was in and the impact that it had on Golden Ciphers. And I fully understand the quandary, you know, when it comes to that. But, you know, it's just important to have those things in place, because if you want to win at the game, you got to play by the rules, so to speak. But at the same time, if you know the rules, you can use those rules to your advantage. So that's what we have to do. So really important to have that paperwork, you know, because they look at your track record in terms of the way you handle money as an organization. That's specifically what they're looking for. So when they can see that you're responsible with money, they're more likely or more apt to give you money. So that would be my word of advice, to get some of the low-hanging fruit out there. There are certain grant opportunities that are tied to the environment. I know that there's an environmental justice agency right now that has a grant opportunity that ends on the 31st of January. So I can share that information with you, and perhaps you might be able to take advantage of that opportunity. But again, it's just really important to have that paperwork in order and in place, so that when you approach them about that funding, they can see that you have been fiscally responsible. Or the other option that you have is to connect with someone who can serve as your fiscal agent. And sometimes if you don't have all that paperwork in place, and you know, all your I's dotted and your T's crossed, there's someone else out there who has done that, and they can provide you an access or an entry point into ways that you can obtain that funding. So that's basically what I wanted to share with you about ways to get to that funding. But to the general listening audience or the viewing audience, again, you were indicating that there were some ways that they could support you. So I want you to reiterate those things if you could, Wes.
Yeah, I don't know if he was able to hear you.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on either.
Well,
Can you hear us, Wes?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Go ahead, ask
So,
that question again.
Yeah. In the space that you were navigating, what's going on with the device? Can you hear me, Wes? Can you hear?
Can you hear the question, Antonio?
Yeah, I hear the. Okay, you want me to? You don't hear Vince?
I can't hear you.
Okay, go ahead, Vince. I'll relate that.
He said he can't hear me.
Yeah, he said, tell it to me. What? Say it again, Vince. What was the question?
I was just basically saying to him that one of the ways that they could get some of that money is to have someone that they are connected with who can navigate filling out those applications and making sure that their financials are in order, because the financials are one of the ways that they eliminate or select different projects to get funding.
Yeah. Wes, he was saying that he was wondering if you had anybody that you could connect with to help walk you through some of these processes and getting some of these funding, like, you know, making sure your financials are, and basically, you know how it goes, that you look pretty decent on paper in order to obtain some of these fundings. Is anybody you working with now?
Not whatsoever, you know. And the thing about my company is that the funding really come to me, but a lot of times the funding is so overwhelming that every month I'm missing out on hundreds of thousands. Like whether it's the police commission just tried to give me $50,000 last month. They gave me a 10-page application, and I had to wheel forth a team to do it. And then once I did that, they gave me whole nother package, and it was just like, man, come on, man. Like, it's just like you making me jump through too many hoops. And I understand, like, you want to make sure the money right and everything. I understand that completely. But the people with the funding, man, they purposely like discourage people like us. You know what I mean? So the people that's really getting the funding is people who ain't even putting in nowhere near the work we get and that we doing.
Well, that's always been the challenge, you know, from the beginning. And some people look at that as being purposeful, you know, and unfortunately, you know, they kind of like calculate, see how bad almost like how bad you want it, and they take you through all these hoops and stuff. But that's been the norm. That's been the norm for us, just trying to get something forever, you know. So there are some companies that are out there that can help you go through some of the paperwork, and there's people out there, and we encourage and asking people to reach out right now. That if some people have that tool set and that expertise that can help navigate you through those particular things, we asking you to give us a call, reach out to you, and help you along with that.
Usually the problem that I come across is that what we doing is so specific that on paper somebody would try to put us inside of a box, So it's just like, as I try to explain to people, like, hey, we are offering a very unique tool. I usually lose people because the work that we doing is just like, I'm trying to give you the verbiage to use. I'm trying to walk you through it. I had the information in my mind. I just don't have the brain power to sit through 5 pages of paperwork. So usually when I sit down with somebody to help me with the paperwork, the whole point of me paying you is to make this process easier. And most people don't. It's a skill set to know how to transfer information. And most people make it so much more harder for me that I become overwhelmed. I could tell somebody, like, I got a deadline tonight. I'm going to pay you to help me reach this deadline tonight. And they'll drag their feet on it. They won't move as if it's an urgency and I'm telling them, like, this money is guaranteed. That whoever is issuing this money is telling me that they going to give me this money because they see the work that I'm doing. And it's hard to find professionals as far as that paperwork go who really, it seems like they be just as lost as me. Now, I mean, I haven't met one person who is just sharp and can get it done, who can hear and see what I'm doing and interpret it. So that's the biggest thing, because like, even like when you hear about us going inside the detention center, everybody gonna put us inside the norm. Whereas like when we go into the detention center, we don't do motivational speeches. We not in there telling our story. We doing violence prevention. I mean, there's a lot of violence going on inside the detention center that we go in there and diffuse. So when I try to express somebody to that, they'll come right back around like, so what you teaching these kids again? And I'm telling you as clear as day that we bringing down the crime rate. We not talking to these kids. Like, we talking to them, we mediating, but we're not going there to talk to them. We going there to hear them out. So because what we doing is such a unique service, it's just hard. I don't want nobody putting on paper something that I'm not.
So I think the real critical issue here is connecting you with someone that can give you the assistance that you need, because there are people in our community who write
grants. Understand that we ushering in something different, and even like by us doing juvenile reentry services, we reach out to reentry. I mean, let them know, like, man, we offering this service, man. Y'all should want to back us. Y'all should want to get in the car with us. If y'all got the funding and we got the people, in my mind, I feel like it's a perfect marriage. I prefer to just partner with people who already got the money. You know what I mean? If you already got the money to do violence prevention in the community, and we already doing violence prevention, and that's an easy match. You ain't got to leave your office. You know what I mean? I ain't got to sit down and be overwhelmed with paperwork. Yeah. So in my mind, I feel like it's an easy marriage. We doing the work. Whoever got the funding, or the resources, partner with us. We could get further together than apart.
Okay. Well, Wes, it looks like we're having some communication issues. I'm not sure that you're able to hear me. So we're going to go ahead and move towards concluding the broadcast. But I will post that information about the numbers that you can be reached at so that donations can be made. And I want to see if I can connect you with someone that can operate in a space that will enable you to apply for those grants and see some success. So, Brother Antonio,
I'll translate though. Yeah, Wes, what we're going to do is, we're going to post your information, Wes, and then Brother Vince said he's going to try to connect you with some people that can possibly help you as well.
And I appreciate that with all my heart. I really do. I genuinely do.
Yeah, right. And I'm toiling something in my mind. I don't want to step out there and it's not saying so. I'm a part of an organization, ALIRA, that's called African American Law Enforcement Retirees, association. I'm president of, and we were looking at some things to try to do as far as the community and giving back. I know throughout my career, I've been in schools and people ask me to come and talk to different youth groups and things of that nature doing career days and stuff like that. And, and I always, do my talks with an Afrocentric flair to it, and letting them know what's the importance of who they are, what they are, how history and things like that plays into and some of the pitfalls in this society. So I'm saying all that to say is that something that I'm gonna bring up to them, and possibly myself may be interested in becoming a mentor, and that was something that I was thinking about bringing towards the group, and seeing as far as their interest is concerned about getting into, even if it's something, a couple programs that we sponsor for the children, and you could bring the children with us, and where we get a chance to sit down and talk to them a little bit, and then maybe some activity afterwards or something like that. I don't know if that works for you as well, something like that.
The majority of the kids we deal with, they're on house arrest, so we gotta deal with them individually. Like, we gotta go to them if anything.
See my cat back there. Go ahead. You said say it one more time now.
I said majority of kids we deal with, they're on house arrest, so we got to go to them a lot of the time.
Wow. Okay. Mm-hmm.
But it's just like the reason why, that support is so needed, because on a day-to-day basis, man, I'm driving to each one of them, making sure they're fed, making sure they're cool. I'm on the Instagrams, making sure, like, hey, take that down. You're making yourself look bad. Like, man, it's a full-time job for real, man, and it costs. Like, even like right now, like, man, my phone bill ain't paid today. You know what I mean? Like, my phone probably off right now. I'm just under the Wi-Fi because I spent my last making sure one of the teenagers was all right, because me making sure he all right, it lowers the crime rate. It's a lot of dudes he got on his list right now that he want to rob, that he want to take up top. And every day that I show up in his life, man, it's saving somebody's life for real, man. And I'm keeping him. I can't just tell him like, hey, man, don't be robbing nobody. But no, I'm showing up and I'm feeding you. I'm putting money in your pocket. I'm taking you to go get your hair cut, and I ain't giving you a reason to rob.
Yeah, I got you. I understand. Yeah, I had to do some thinking on that one. Yeah, by them being in house, that may be possible too to show up at their house as well with you, if that's possible. I don't know, but it seemed like something that I was going to bring to my organization as well, about somehow making some connection with the youth, and there's just a lot of talent that's in my organization, with people that were sergeants, captains, commanders, teaching in the academy and stuff to that, like that. With me, I've taught the DARE program, the GREAT program, several other programs to deal with youth in my past, so let's just see, and maybe some possibilities. I don't know what happens, once they get released and off of house arrest, and maybe something we can get a group together, when they get to that point as well. So we'll see.
I think it's important to let it be known, like, the distinction, like, what we offering is not a program. Like, what we offering is really a service. Like, we are really an extension of the police force. Like, the things that the police can't do in the communities, man, we can do. I mean, we could go in places and resolve neighborhood beefs and squash murders from happening and stopping women. So it's a service. It's not a situation where we getting kids together. Like, we are actually in the community stopping crime. Like, that's exactly what we're doing. We're not encouraging these kids to have a good day. We're not encouraging the kids to do nothing. We are imposing our will in their life to the point where we smothering y'all with love. We're not even giving y'all the option to do these things, because we was kids and we was the same kids as them. So we are experts at lowering the crime rate in Cleveland, and that's really what we do at the bottom line. So it's very important for me to let everybody know that this is not a program, it's a service.
Well, as you was talking, I was just thinking too that, you can't be at every time and every place, so when you visiting these particular kids that may be on house arrest, I don't know how often you do that, maybe for those mentors. How do you usually schedule those mentors in between times that you're there or not? I'm saying that may be something that we can do as well, for certain kids and certain situations that, one of the retired officers can come in behind you and keep it, to reinforce what you're saying. It may be a way to do it like that. Just thinking, I don't know.
I think that because I want to be intentional on really getting the help that we need. Like we don't really need like that type of reinforcement. Like we need like resources. We need help. You know what I mean? Like instead of like showing up to talk to these kids, like, point us to some resource where we could feed these kids. We go inside the detention center, but we feed them kids every day, like outside of the institutional meals. So we need people like to really get on the ground with us. Like we're not talking to these kids. Like we listening to them. And we ain't doing no talking. And I'm very like strict on bringing people around them who just want to talk to them. Like you can't add, you got to do. I come with something in my hands every single time. I never just come with words. Like I'm purposely going out my way to change your life. We purposely going out our way to make a difference in your life. You a kid. You can't make those decisions on your own, so we making them for you. We an extension of your parents. We an extension of the police force. We an extension of therapists. We an extension of the hospitals, but we really in the community. So we could connect with these people in ways that can't nobody else connect with them. So that's why I'm so strict on like who we bring around, because I really don't want people coming around who's just gonna talk to these kids. I want people around us who gonna do for these kids. Now I mean, and let your actions speak for themselves.
Oh well, yeah, I'm definitely in agreement with that. I'm sure there may be a lack of better word. I mean, some better wording that I can say as far as adopting, but I'm sure that some of the people in our organization and people that I bring around would be interested in actually doing for the kids and helping them out in one way or another once they get to know each other. So I think it would be a little bit more than just lip service as well. Sure. But anyway,
the unique approach that I wanted to put on there is that we train these kids to be peer-on-peer mentors. Like, so we're not looking for adults to mentor them. We get kids their own age to mentor them. They mentor each other because they don't nobody understand them better than each other. So that's what made our program so unique, because I tried this formula out in prison. When I was in prison, all of the prison programs will have all the OGs teaching the young dudes something. And if you look up my track record, man, I unified 90% of Richland Correctional, because what I did was I put young adults in position of power. I didn't let the game come down from the top to the bottom. I let them peer on peer themselves, and they can solve their problems better than anybody else can. Because as adults, we try to get them to understand the world how we know it. And we don't spend nowhere near enough time understanding the world how they know it, because they know this world better than we do in 2025 with all this technology and everything that's going on. And they really know this world better than we do. But we feel like we got more experience that we know better, and yeah, we do with wisdom. But as far as today goes in 2025, man, it's some things that they know that we just don't know, and we give them a platform that really express that.
Yeah, I understand, brother. I think I think that me personally, from my experience, I think it's a combination of it all. Some things are foundational to where they're going to need, and they only can get that from some of the wisdom of a person that got experiences. We are a product of our experiences in our environment. So some of those things that an older person can do to circumvent some of that stuff, it's going to be needed. So I think it's a collective, it's a holistic approach as well. And I think, some of the groundbreaking things that a youth can talk to another youth and help them along with. But I think that we got to make sure we don't lead them down the path of thinking that this is all what they seeing and what they dealing with as far as media and all that. That is all encompassing, because sometimes that media has been some of our worst enemy of dealing with that media as well. But my good brother Wes. So again, and Sister Augustine, let the folks know how they can get in contact with you, in touch with you, and make a connection with you if they want to help, donate, or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Just like on the screen says. I'm gonna figure it. I want my figure out like on TV. Like on the screen. I try to point down at the camera.
Right, I understand. Yeah, just give it verbally again so they know.
My Apple Pay and Zelle is 216-290-9637. Or you could Cash App Mentors for Minorities. That's the number 4. Cash App Mentors for Minorities, or Apple Pay and Zelle 216-290-9637. Anything that you donate will help us, bring down the crime rate in Cleveland.
All right.
And as well as Columbus as well.
Okay. All right. Well, we appreciate you. We appreciate you for coming in on short notice and letting us know what you are doing around our city and Columbus and here. I'm sure y'all making the connection, and we definitely appreciate you, taking this effort and going on. Anybody that's on the street and is on the front line doing something and dealing with these kids, you have to be commended, for doing that, and taking that energy to do that, because we're definitely at a loss when we're talking about our kids and our children. So we appreciate you, brother, and we appreciate you coming on the show, and we'll be in touch.
Man, God bless you, man. Consider us a friend and a resource.
Right on, my brother. Right on. Appreciate you. All right. All right. Y'all have a good one. Okay. Peace.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my brother.
Yes, sir.
Another Saturday, another 360 Info Network, and important news that you can use. Again, the numbers are on the screen, and they will be in the description for this video. If you'd like to reach out to Wall Street West or St. Augustine and support a very worthy cause, I encourage you to do so. And as always, like to thank you for joining us on 360 Info Network. In parting, we always say, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Make today your absolute best day. Peace.
Peace.